We are a team. As storytellers and dreamers,
there is always magic to discover.
Once upon a time,
a Las Vegas showgirl
and a comedian magician
figured out that even with different perspectives,
our adventures and experiences together
are really just
one big
caper.
Welcome to One Big Caper. I'm Felix. This is my partner, Athena, and this show is kind of an interactive one. We talk with each other about prompts that are sent to us by people who watch or listen to us. Today is an interesting topic.
What?
And I'm off the bat, I'm not even sure how I will address it. So we go into these things without a script, just a prompt, and we put ourselves in front of this camera to discuss whatever that is. So today we are talking about
Healthy habits for performers.
healthy habits
For performers.
for performers.
This was actually requested. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, as a young performer, I did not take care of myself very well. I did know that my body was my instrument and I needed to have a monthly massage and a chiropractic adjustment, which I didn't do the chiropractic adjustment, but I did the massage because that particular therapist had a way of manipulating my muscles so that I would get back in alignment. It was...
You were an athlete.
Yep.
Yep.
Yes. So I had to take care of my body,
mm-hmm.
for sure. Like that was the thing. However, I was still, nutrition was still like, I was young. Nutrition didn't really matter, especially after I left the ballet company because they didn't want me too skinny. And I actually got a weight notice for being too skinny in the show. So there's that. And then there was the drinking, maybe a little bit of drugs in there somewhere. But, it wasn't top of my mind to have healthy habits.
Okay.
As a dancer.
Right.
There were plenty of older dancers. And when I'm saying older, they're like 5, maybe 10 years older than me. There was one who was 25 years older than me. And she worked out every day. She ate super healthy. I mean, she was 47 when I met her. And then she left the show at 51. So she had to take care of herself. She had to stay in her most peak form to stay in the show, right? And, the men were required to have more tantalizing physiques than the women. They had to work out every day. Most of them did, just because they were in a G-string. If you are not familiar, I was in the show Jubilee, and well, the men got to wear a studded leather G-string for one of the acts.
The show boys were often more revealed than the showgirls.
Yeah, those poor guys. And so they had to work out. They had to.
Yeah.
They also got weight notices as well. So back then it wasn't, because I was like 20, wasn't a big deal. But then when I started burlesque again, and my teacher at the time, she said that don't ever schedule anything to do on a show day or the day after. And I was like, why? Well, I learned pretty quickly that you're only on stage for 3-ish minutes when you do burlesque, and you don't want to ruin it by being too tired or whatever. So
this is a solid point. I told you I didn't know what I was going to say, but that is a solid point. And there have been many rookie mistakes I have made in the last 40 years. One of those in particular comes to mind immediately, where
is this a juicy bit?
I guess this is a juicy bit,
yes.
And for that matter, a turning point, a pivotal moment.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
Bonus.
So I no longer. I just wrote this to. I get bid requests for appearances and shows and that kind of thing, and one of the things that I wrote was I don't travel on show days. So if you want me to perform in San Francisco at 8 p.m. on this date, I'm going to need a room for the night before and the night of the show, and I will travel outside of that particular day because I don't travel on show days. And I should have learned that lesson after one horrible experience, and it probably took six before I was like, I'm not being smart about this.
Yeah.
And I was making the mistake of trying to take care of my clients
Uh-huh.
and their money
Oh,
and save them money by not making them invest in accommodations for 2 nights. And I get it now.
yeah.
And one of those occasions was one, I was flown to Seattle and I was to perform there, and I allowed them to book my tickets, and the window was tight. They were sending me a driver to the airport who was going to then take me directly to the gig.
Oh my God.
So I had to fly in costume, and the airline misplaced my luggage. So I didn't have my props. Yeah. Fortunately, I had been doing this long enough that I was able to ask the driver to take me by I won't name the store, but a box store. And for about $35, I was able to buy enough materials that in the back of the car on the way to the venue, I was able to fashion together enough physical props, materials to do an more or less impromptu 45-minute show.
You can't do that in burlesque.
You can't do that in burlesque. there's a new category, the things you can't do in burlesque, that's a short list. It turns out.
Oh, it is.
Yeah. So this was a turning point in two ways. Number one, and important to this episode and important to my health, I do not travel on show days. The other one is that is what inspired me to become much less of a magician and more of a mentalist, because I can take what I need to be a mentalist in a carry-on.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you ever get your luggage back?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh.
They delivered it to the hotel that night after the show. So, yeah, that was rough. It's important to your health as an entertainer to be prepared and 100% for your show. I would say that one of those things is to not just eat well, but eat well timed. In that, don't fill your body full of water 5 minutes before you get on stage, because that can feel very uncomfortable, especially if you're a performer like me. I'm a one-person show. There's nobody else able to run out on stage and do a little soft shoe while I take a break. It's just me. So when I walk out on stage, I'm committed to the next 45 to 90 minutes all by my lonesome. So I have to time the way I eat and drink before shows.
Yeah. And he forgets.
And on show days, I drink. I'm a coffee drinker. So coffee is a good friend, but I drink more water on show days than I do on regular days.
It's because you're talking more. Probably.
Well, not after, but I do drink after. I do drink water after a show too, but try to stay a little more hydrated, I guess.
Because you sweat more?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. That's one thing. When I did the residency at the Stanley Hotel, I wear an activity tracker, and that show was 70 minutes, so an hour, 10 minutes, always on the nose. I don't know how I did that. I did 100 of them. Every single one of them was perfectly an hour, 10 minutes. But I wear an activity tracker, and determines that in the course of that show, every time I did it, I was getting 3 miles worth of walking in. Because I'm that kind of an entertainer, I guess. I'm trying to make sure that everybody has a front row seat, so I get out of the audience and do stuff like that. Yeah. So I am going to confess, I guess, since I'm on the juicy bits sort of things, that I don't eat that healthy. I eat more healthy now than I used to. We do a lot more home cooked meals than we used to go out all the time, and I love cheeseburgers. I'm a big cheeseburger fan. I used to have a cheeseburger partner belly dancer, and
She
her
would have a
husband.
cheeseburger before shows.
Yeah, her husband wouldn't even like join us or anything, but we'd meet for a cheeseburger before a show, and she's a belly dancer, so
I can't even
yeah,
imagine like undulating your stomach while you have
maybe
a
it helps.
maybe it helps. Maybe it helped her.
Yeah,
Um oh,
yeah. So other things too, though. I think,
can I
yeah.
talk?
Oh no, I'm just. This is my episode now.
Okay.
I'm kidding.
I'll just be your happy
I
audience over
just
here.
as every time we come up with a prompt or we're given a prompt, and I think I have nothing to say about that. Every time I have more to say about it than you.
I have a lot to say,
Oh
but I
well, then
haven't been able to break in at all.
all right. Well, it's your turn.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yes.
So there's a couple things. Okay. Um, you were talking about cheeseburgers. Now I have to remember because I didn't write it down.
Oh, sorry.
We've gotten so far away. As when I was a showgirl, I mean, we're pretty naked. Even the cover dancers, they had bras and g-strings. Our stomachs are still there. On Thanksgiving, we couldn't eat very much because we'd have to go to a show, or Christmas, any of the major holidays that people eat. We couldn't because we'd be doing our racket style kick line, and we'd be like, ugh! So yeah, there, timing is really important there. So cheeseburgers before a show. I could do it, I think, when I was younger, but like the older I got, I wouldn't do it when I was doing burlesque. I wouldn't eat that much. But I remember my first ballet teacher always used to say, eat a whole plate of spaghetti and butter before you do a performance. I don't, for the
That
carbs, I
seems.
guess.
I don't
Really
know.
old school, like
Mm-hmm.
70s. Um, yeah, it's
Hmm.
just like solid carbs. That's all. But I started, yeah, for me, my diet is a lot healthier than it used to be when we first got together. But that's purely to deal with hormonal issues I've been having. So I eat more seeds. I'm doing seed cycling. I eat oatmeal every day, so it helps flushing out a lot of toxins that I might be
We're gonna
exposed
try
to.
groats. We'll give you
Yeah,
a report
gross.
about that.
Yeah, and last year you were, well, no, during the lockdown you started sprouting seeds,
Hmm.
and sprout like it. This guy right here was making sprouts, and they
They're
were lovely.
delicious.
Yeah, they're delicious on burgers. um, but it's like little baby steps. We had a garden during the lockdown, just like everybody else. I mean, ours was very tiny
I
because
think the only thing we didn't do that was like everybody else is
the
learn to make
bread.
sourdough.
Yeah, the sourdough thing. We didn't know. We're like, whatever. We did. I did obtain a giant bag of yeast, though, active yeast, that's sitting in the freezer. We actually use it like once every few months. We make bread bowls.
Well, the kids like to cook or bake, and
Yeah, so
yeah.
they're using it. But yeah, so little baby steps. But yeah, you were talking about cheeseburgers, and then you were going to go on about how you didn't think you had anything else to talk about.
I do though, because it occurs to me how many facets there are to this subject,
Oh
and one of those
yes.
facets that occurs to me is that we talk about how I was uh, raised in masculinity and that kind
Yeah.
of thing, but I moisturize, and that's something that I think is particularly amongst male performers, of course, that they don't moisturize their faces, and I'm often asked by other male entertainers. I used to be anyway. Why I have fewer wrinkles, or I don't look as old as I claim to be, and and the joke in my response, and giving advice, was that I was using Irish sunblock, and that always gets a big question mark. But that's the roof of a pub. Uh, but the truth is that I do use a moisturizer on my face, and so that I think it is part of being healthy as an entertainer, is to have a good skincare regimen.
Yes. And well, then you've got your nutrition, you've got your I would say self-care, like you were talking about, no traveling on show days, but
Mhm.
also giving yourself time after. I think that a lot of the clients that book you don't understand, or that don't book you rather, because they don't understand your rates. They think that it's like a job and you just go there for an hour and that's
This, you
it.
cost how much per hour? It's
You
not. I don't have an
know,
hourly rate. You're paying me
no,
to do all of these things.
right,
I start preparing for a show the day before.
right,
Uh,
right. Packing everything, getting all the illusions ready. Like it's not, you don't just show up in your awesome suit and wow people. Like there's preparation involved. As a burlesque performer, I really learned that. Not so much when I was in the production show, because the production show, we lived in the theater. So our shoes were already there, our costumes were, we had dressers that took care of our costumes. So,
yeah,
you know,
we've talked about that before, and the
yeah,
luxury that is.
it's a luxury. I had to wash my own costumes and maintain them. If anything ripped during a show, I'd have to, you know in burlesque, I had to fix this stuff by myself. It's like this machine that you're maintaining. Like you maintain your car, you get the oil changes, you get new tires, all these things. You are the machine that is working or playing, however you want to put it, and you need to take care of it. And drinking excessively before, during, and after shows is not going to be great for you in the long run. And not getting enough sleep. I am having a horrible time with my current job. This, like, what we're talking about now is not just for performers. This is for everybody. You know, I work in the service industry, and there are people that work doubles or that do clopens. A clopen is where you close the restaurant the night before and then you open it the next morning. And I keep telling them, like, I can't do that. They've scheduled me probably a handful over the last year, and every time I'm like, I can't do this. Stop doing this. I'm old. This is what I say. I'm old, but I don't really believe I'm old. I just know that getting enough sleep before doing a shift is going to help me have a more successful shift, because the volume of people I'm dealing with, angry, irritable travelers, I have to be in on my top game
Mhm.
in order to deal with that.
Mhm.
So I'm using habits from the last 10 years that I've used in burlesque. I wasn't doing burlesque for 10 years, but I guess it was 8 years, 7 years, whatever. The last few years where I was learning, like, don't do anything on a show day. Make sure you rest. After a festival, they call it the glitter crash. And it's because you're partying, you're doing workshops, and you're watching shows for 3 days straight. That's all you're doing. And then you get home and, like, that huge, like, then you're in a crash, which we'll talk about in our next episode when
Oh,
we're
sure.
talking about performer depression. It's the same thing. Like, if you don't take care of yourself before, during, and after especially, but you have to take those little baby steps in between, and you know to
Here's
avert.
something that we've discussed with each other many, many times, and it's worth mentioning, and that is that time on stage as a performer is very different. It moves differently, and we exert ourselves in different ways than we do off stage. And I think it can really only be compared to, say, a professional footballer, or like
An athlete,
game
yeah,
time is different, even different than rehearsal time, or
it's
different.
true.
It's a different energy, and it's an expensive one. Um, it's it's a
Hmm.
really expensive one, and so that relates a lot to when my clients book me, or I get a bid request, and there's sticker shock happening on the other line or whatever, and that's because they think I'm working for an hour. How could it cost that much? And that's one of the things that's worth mentioning, is that that hour I'm exerting myself more. Uh, this is why we're spent after a show.
I I will crash after we finish recording today. It happens every
Sure.
month, and every month I mess it up and I schedule stuff like mom stuff and date night. We've done date night a couple times after this, and I'm just like a zombie because I am outputting energy right now to perform for you, to be for you. And
Which is our favorite thing. We're not complaining.
We're not complaining. It takes its toll on me, no matter how much sleep I got the night before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so.
But that's the reason that we're discussing all this other stuff: being properly fed, properly rested, properly hydrated, everything you can do to make yourself comfortable to be at your best
on stage. But then afterwards, it's important. Like, I just recently learned about adaptogens. Do you know what those are?
Let's hear about it.
You might want to include some adaptogens in your new habits coming with all these shows you have coming up next month.
Okay.
We're in December. We're recording this December. This is for January. But adaptogens are nutrients that help your body to recover.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of them that I've been taking is ashwagandha, which is called Indian ginseng.
Okay.
So there is an energy element to it. There's not the crash like caffeine, but there's also built into it the whatever the nutrient parts that help your body recover. So from having too much adrenaline, I have adrenaline in my body every day. Like a lot of cortisol is built up from stress, from dealing with the cranky passengers, and so I take the adaptogens to help recover faster, so that I'm not so wiped out. But I'm also drinking my adrenal cocktails. So after I have a stressful day, I have orange juice, coconut water, and salt in a little cocktail in my car waiting, because I can't take that into the airport. So it's in my car waiting, and I chug it as soon as I get in the car, and I feel this immediate relaxing, because magnesium, the combination of magnesium, vitamin C, and sodium helps your body to de-stress, which is why we crave French fries and chocolate after a stressful experience. Or potato chips, like something salty and chocolatey, because chocolate has magnesium in it. So yeah, that's
interesting.
Fun fact. And yeah, I found that recipe on Pinterest. It's like super easy.
We'll connect that to this episode.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really important. I think that in our culture that's also constantly hustle, the hustle culture that we live in, there's not importance placed on culminating a project or celebrating the end of something and then resting and completing the full creative cycle, which is, what Mother Earth, Mother Nature does at the end of the year, is shut everything down so it can rest to get ready for spring. Okay. So yeah,
we'll have to get back to you on groats and our experience with groats. That's a new experiment, and groats is just the least processed form of oats. So steel cut oats is the next step.
Yeah,
this is before they're steel cut.
And I do overnight oats, which I'm curious to find out if I can do with groats.
I believe you can. Yeah,
I think so. It's just I think I have to add a little bit of heat to it, but yeah, I want to also grow amaranth next year.
We have follow-up stuff on a few issues here. Okay, we'll have to follow up on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else to add? We talked about sleep. We talked about food. We talked about our next one. We talk about mental health.
Yeah,
that's important.
Mental health is an important one, and we certainly invite you to tune into that one coming up.
So nutrition, sleep, mental health,
skincare.
Yeah. So outer body.
Mm-hmm. If we've missed anything, just let us know. We trust you with that. And if you have any other questions, reach us any old time at hello@onebigcaper.com.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We can't keep doing this without you. Give us just a little bit of your time by subscribing, sharing, rating, or talking about One Big Caper with someone else. We really appreciate your help.
We want to hear your stories. Visit onebigcaper.com to get to know us even more.
All of the audio and visual digital media associated with One Big Caper, in whole or in part, is the property of Gazellus Productions, LLC.